What's up, Robert?
Not much. How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. What is going on? What's your take?
Doing all right.
Not much. I'm trying to get a beat on what we're talking out here. How is Mega not a cult? Are you saying it is a cult or isn't a cult?
It is a cult.
I don't think Mega's a cult. I just think that divisions. I think these are opportunities. I think people will claim something as a cult when they fail to come to the table to find the compromise between people that think differently. I mean, we're supposed to be about diversity, so why would you call somebody a cult and
Mega doesn't believe in
opportunity
diversity.
to compromise?
Mega doesn't believe in compromise or diversity. We're hearing how Donald Trump talks about Nikki Haley supporters, saying they're not going to have a seat at the table in his administration. I think if that's an indication of someone who's refusing to compromise, we can look at that. We can look at the way he demonizes black people and migrants and women and all sorts of people from different walks of life, and with no sense of interest of creating any kind of compromise. So I don't know how this notion that somehow it's the left that's uncompromising came about, because it's absolutely MAGA.
Well, I didn't say either way. I was just like, I think when people start categorizing things and creating division, I think there's opportunities there. Like, well, no, you need to come sit at the table a little bit longer and find that compromise. And that's where it kind of goes back to, it's where are the leaders at, man? Where are the leaders? If these people that are elected sell themselves as leaders, then the leaders get stuff done. And it's like, no, we need to come together. We've got some awesome divisions here. We've recognized them. We threw them on the table. We got people that want to dress different, act different, wear different color hair. Cool. You got people that aren't into that. They want to attach things to it. And my thought is, well,
right. But like, we just saw how that happened, how that played out 2 days ago, when Trans Day of Visibility and Easter happened to fall on the same day. There was no sense of compromise, especially out of the MAGA camp. They chastised Biden because he made a proclamation recognizing it. And now we're supposed to be kumbaya and say, oh, let's just get along and be civil together. That's not what you guys brought 2 days ago.
Well, what do you mean, you guys? You mean me?
Conservatives.
Oh, conservatives. Cool.
MAGA.
See, I always try and jump in on these conversations to try and talk about it. And I'm tired of hearing about the problems. I'm tired of hearing what one side says to the others, because it's clear that contrarianism is growing quite extensively these days. And it's like, cool, you want to contrary everything. You're good at that. Come over here and sit. Take somebody that is scholastically established as Jordan Peterson. Take somebody that's scholastically established as anybody on the left, and let the smart people come in and sit down. Because I've seen
Jordan. I'm gonna break it to you, man. Listen, Jordan Peterson is not particularly intelligent.
Well, and I think that's where division gets sowed.
I mean, I can give you an example, right? Like, you want to know, like, there's division, we should come together and we should talk and all this other stuff. The problem is Jordan Peterson's not smart. The problem is that he takes these things that he knows nothing about and has attempted to learn, but yet bastardize them and regurgitates them to people that don't know anything. And then somehow we're supposed to defend against those positions or enlighten people or come to some sort of conclusion. You're not even in the same ballpark. I mean, he talks about, like, he doesn't understand communism. It's just this vile, rabid thing. He doesn't understand it in concept, principle, or practice. He doesn't understand any of it. He doesn't understand postmodernism.
Fascism.
In fact, I've watched him do postmodernism on Joe Rogan. Right? Like, modernism is just questioning larger narratives. That's literally what he did. I watched him do it with the Joe Rogan program when he was talking about climate change. Well, who are these scientists that we should be questioning the science? That's literally postmodernism. He uses these things he does not understand in very vague, general ways, just to be hateful and spiteful for things that he doesn't truly understand.
Well, and I think there's a slight disagreements in there that I would have with that, because of a lot of the people I listen to as a historian. The thing I was trained to the most is you've got to look at all the sources, and whether you like them or don't like them isn't the important thing. Is you got to look at them and see where they came from. So I do respect the fact that he comes from a lot of years of treating people psychologically, clinically. And I think that
I'm sure that he's a
lot of stuff, but I'm
sure that he is a more than qualified. I'm sure that he's a more than qualified.
Disagreeing. Where's the
listen? Here's the thing. I am sure that Jordan Peterson is a qualified and probably a pretty good clinical psychologist. He does not understand anything about politics, about postmodernism, about Marxism or communism or fascism, anything. He doesn't understand that stuff. And Jordan Peterson, and when you watch him now, you're going to realize this, he is very, very concerned with people thinking that he is stupid. Maybe it's childhood trauma, I don't know. But he is very concerned at people thinking that he's intellectually not particularly bright. And so you'll watch him where he goes, sometimes I find a hard time. It's like I can't even explain it. You know, it's too deep of a thought to actually explain. That's not intelligence. Being able to say your thoughts, to put them out on paper, to explain them to people that don't know what they're talking about, that would be intelligence. Just saying, I can't really find a way to... Could you imagine if I came in here every day and I was like, I can't really find a way to explain this. I'm going to proceed to bastardize
You just wouldn't understand.
Politics. You just wouldn't understand. That would be really, really terrible position of argument. I'm sure he's a great qualified clinical psychologist, but he literally got famous for misreading a Canadian bill. That's literally, he misread and bastardized the bill. That's literally how he got famous.
Interesting. But where are the solutions, though? Again, I think it's interesting to see how you've got the contrarian arguments against each other's side, but when you sit back and just try to listen, because I take the approach, you got two ears and one mouth for a reason, where are the solutions? And it's like there's not a lot of solutions coming up as opposed to just more and more arguments against one side or the other.
Well,
and I think
the problem is...
I just think that there creates a level of disqualification of, okay, cool, you can, Shapiro, here's a well-educated guy, but really all he does is he's really good at arguing against any point that he disagrees with. It's a trait. It's a technique.
He's actually really not. He's straw. He actually does his tactic is to do a straw man. Is a really significant straw man problem where he goes, well, if you believe this, he does this. If you believe this, then you also too must believe this. But no, I don't. They're not related.
Well, no, yeah, and you get the slip ups you hear in there when they're doing this contrarianism type stuff, because all of a sudden you're just listening and it's like, if you offer an opposing viewpoint on something to stretch it out further so that you could possibly start laying solutions down on the table. The question is, where are the solutions coming from? That's what I always get back to. And if they don't have solutions, they just have, let me put you in a box somewhere.
Right,
and
but you look at...
example was when I jumped in here was, you read... Yeah, what do you mean you? I was just bringing that up to ask questions about it, And so trying to get back a little bit to...
Here's the problem with Trump, and I don't think this is true of like conservatives. There are conservatives or moderate Republicans that I could sit down with and we would come to some sort of compromise. And I would feel decent about it, right? I wouldn't feel spectacular, but I could feel like I could compromise with Republicans. Mitt Romney, for instance, right? There's a degree of principle there. Even if I disagree with him on pretty much every policy, he understands that there's a compromise there. He understands he's not going to get everything he wants, and he understands that for the benefit of America, we're going to have to compromise. Right? The compromise that I would make with him, I'd prefer not to, but I could, right? In that thing. How am I supposed to compromise with a guy that has no policies and no moral compass? Like, what am I supposed to compromise with Donald Trump on? He wants to put kids in cages. He's advocated for shooting migrants and protesters. He wants to destroy the EPA. Doesn't care about climate change. Doesn't care about, Iran having nuclear weapons. The list goes on about stuff he just does not care about. He doesn't have any policies besides corporations can destroy it and do whatever they want to America. And also, I should be the dictatorial leader. That alone, I don't think that there's a way for us to mend that gap, right? This guy should not be running because he's attempting to overthrow the government. And I would hold that belief of any Democrat or even any progressive. If they wanted to retain power forever, they should go to jail. They should not be allowed to run. But somehow we're having this discussion for a guy that attempted to overthrow the government of whether or not we're going to do it again. Really quick, someone said a cult that enjoyed energy independent. Actually, under Joe Biden, okay, we're the first time we're energy independent in America in over 60 years under Joe Biden.
Well, I feel like what I'm seeing, the observation I'm seeing is maybe a little bit different perspective as opposed to picking a side and defending it. When people are wanting to vote one party out and the other. The problem with the parties that we have is there's always the argument that you can blame the previous party on why things are bad during a current administration. There's always that brain, when you're hired as a football coach, you always get to blame the previous staff for the rough years you have for up to about 2.5, 3 years. You can lean on that to about that extent before they start.
Right. I get that,
start,
but I get that. But if the
having to answer for the fact that you haven't got things turned around yet.
Right. But if it's a We Are Marshall situation, then where it's just a complete, everything got fucked up, you're not going to blame that coach 5 years down the road, like it.
Oh yeah.
But I will point out though, like most of the stuff happening with Joe Biden was all stuff that was foreseeable. Like inflation, we knew it was coming. Housing, we knew it was coming. The cost of stuff, we knew it was coming.
Well, and I think that's where, when I'm looking around, seeing people who lean one way or the other, they look back at one administration and they common sense it in their view. And like, okay, I was saving more money out of my paycheck. I was buying more things that allowed me to save more, allowed me to think more into the future of stability for families. And now during a current administration, I can't do that. And then so people will start looking around at things of what's going on. And then it just creates the damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. So again, I always lean back to you call yourself leaders if you're in that government, whether you're in the judicial, legislative, or presidential. Where are the people that go in, sit down, and get everything figured out and make a change?
Really quick, I'm going to pull this up.
That's kind of what I always lean on.
This Amy person right here, U.S. energy independence sourced the highest level in over 70 years. This was in 2023, and recently, one second. Oh, U.S. oil production hit a record. Right here, America has achieved energy independence for the first time in over 40 years by J.P. Morgan Chase posted that. So anyway, back to the point.
Where's that from?
J.P. Morgan Chase. I think J.P. Morgan Chase was the one that was investigating that. But it's also would be reported to the Bureau of Energy, or the Energy. What's the Energy Bureau? I forget. Anyway, back to my point. No, I mean we have a situation where Donald Trump doesn't have any policies. Nobody can tell me how he's going to lower inflation. Nobody can tell me how he's going to bring down prices because there is no way. It's a market force thing.
I think that the pushback. Oh no, I agree. I think sending out all the money and the stimulus for things, a lot of businesses raised their prices on stuff because there was more money out there. And I think that
right.
That, again,
it is corporate
people
greed.
who are leaders of intelligence, and yet we're in the situation we're sitting in.
Yeah, it is a lot of market forces at play here that are outside of Biden's purview. Like, we knew there was going to be inflation. We knew prices were going to go up. We knew that this was going to be rough. And we just did it because otherwise we have a problem in 2020 where we have a massive collapse and we're going to have to deal with that. And it's disaster. So this is bad. This isn't as worse as what it would have been if we did nothing in 2020. But yes, this is a byproduct of 2020.
For how long?
For how long? I don't know. I think that when the global economy starts to come back, then that would be, because we're not the only country experiencing this. It's pretty much every country on earth. And we know that it's come down, but it is high. Energy is high. Manufacturing costs are up. Labor costs are up. The list goes on. There's a ton of different costs. And corporate profits are up, are the highest they've ever been. So,
and that's the significant read on, and that you could exclude both parties on, is like when something's going bad and you look at companies and their books are showing that they're making staggering profits, and yet inflation, cost of materials, and everything's up. Why did you raise prices? I mean, why were, and that was because money was being spent for stimulus, historically proven that prices will go up because the more money you print, companies are going to try and grab it. And that's where the greed, and there's not enough oversight on that sort of thing to, hey, this money's going out to help people survive, leave the prices where they're supposed to be. FDR did it during the Great Depression. He encouraged businesses to not raise prices, which there was a little bit of effort in that front. And this time, though, I was wondering, in a compared situation, are companies going to do that? And absolutely not. They raised their prices. They wanted to get the money
a lot
that
of them
was
were
just flying
taking
around out there.
A lot of them were taking
I think
losses for 2 years.
It's not as though MAGA or conservatives are all that enamored by the idea of further regulations over these big corporations charging people up the wazoo, or any kind of government oversight. If anything, they're encouraging less of that. And their complaint is that more government is why businesses are raising their prices. But of course, that's antithetical to the entire cause.
Yeah, that makes good sense. And again, that sort of stuff, it kind of finally starts to rise above. Is it left? Is it right?
Two people pointed this out, but the Republicans did vote against the price gouging bill. So there's that.
Yeah. And, you know, and again, I'll go back to, you know, I'm not left or right in this. You go all the way back to when Bill Clinton tried to get the line item veto in there and it got shot down by the Supreme Court. That would have been one of the most significant impacts he could have done, because you see a bill to help poor deaf children with no feet. Oh, that's a great bill. Get everybody on it. But you don't see the pork that gets lined up in there, all this additional spending for things that shouldn't have been brought up in there. And I think a line item veto, he could have took stuff out. Now that would have created more problems down party lines down the road. However, you could have kept money going towards things that I think representatives would have over time had to have gotten to come together on common causes that they needed to vote for. Had there been the ability to not, you know, put all these pork in the bills that are written midnight at midnight and pumped out the next day, and you got 20 minutes to read through a 1,500-page bill before you vote yes or no on it.
Okay. Well, I mean, they take it in sections. Most of the bill doesn't have to do with how the money is going to be, or doesn't have to do with, you know, where the money's going. It has to do with how it's going to be allocated throughout there. This is like procedural shit. Pretty common.
Yeah. And when it comes, and I am a government employee and I see the amount of waste going on 24/7 where, again, it's just, to me, it's not needed, but somewhere it was justified. And at the end of the road, nobody checks to see, well, does the money get to certain places and do certain things? And in the end of it, no, it doesn't.
Yeah,
dude, hey, I'm going to bail. I appreciate the conversation, and being able to actually communicate about stuff on each side and where it goes and compromise it and stuff. But yeah, keep at it, guys. Stay safe. Appreciate your time.
Cool. Take care, man.
All right, you too.